In a New York Times article published just 2 months before Heath Ledger's death, Todd Haynes compared the Australian actor's intuition and precocious maturity to that of legendary 50s star James Dean. The director of I'm Not There had no idea that an even more startling similarity was about to elicit further comparisons between the two actors, and add Heath Ledger's name to the list of tragic stars destined to remain forever young. Those who had the privilege of working with him remember Heath with affection.
He immersed himself completely. He had just a fantastic time making this movie. I did too with him. You know, we very much enjoyed watching each other, our performances, the immersion in it. He's created this anarchic, Sid Vicious-like punk rock Joker, unlike any Joker that's been seen before. I think it's a real classic portrayal that will be remembered for ages.
Heath Ledger never had trouble being remembered, even at the very beginning of his career. Thanks to his heartthrob good looks, he found early success in soaps like Aussie drama Home and Away, after moving to Sydney from his hometown of Perth while still in his teens. After a stint on US fantasy series Raw, he was noticed by Australian director Gregor Jordan, who cast him opposite screen veteran Brian Brown in the crime caper Two Hands. The film was a success, both in Australia and overseas. Other roles quickly followed, including a chance for Heath to realise a dream and work with one of his childhood heroes, fellow Aussie Mel Gibson on The Patriot.
Oh, he's a national hero, you know. Yeah, he does, and never in a million years did I imagine that I'd be working with him. You know, of course I grew up, you know, watching all these movies, Mad Max and Gallipoli, and you know, I tell you what, you know, he was the guy who bridged the gap between the two industries for us, so, you know, he's a man.
Another period piece followed, this time a comedy. Heath spent several months in Prague filming the rollicking hit A Knight's Tale. The film was a big hit, and Heath found himself scaling Hollywood heights at a rate even he hadn't imagined.
I guess not. I don't know if you imagine it. You just strive for your next job, and that's it, and that takes you to here, you know, and that's really it. I don't know. I never really had one goal.
Even at this early stage in his career, the young actor had his eyes on the bigger picture and was determined to be more than just a young Hollywood heartthrob.
I have made a conscious effort to kind of slow down my career in a way. I mean, I had an opportunity to take other paths, but I just, you know, and once you're on top, there's only one place to go. So I don't really want to be there, and I don't know, I'm not that ambitious. I don't really want to go out and buy skyscrapers, so I'm not, you know, looking for that kind of career.
Determined to steer himself away from the pin-up boy roles, he surprised everyone by turning down a string of high-profile roles, including Spider-Man. In 2003, he teamed up again with Two Hands director Gregor Jordan. Just like in Two Hands, Heath was cast as an outlaw on the run, but this time the outlaw was an icon of Australian folklore, Ned Kelly.
Heath, he sort of found something as an actor that I'd never seen before, and I hadn't actually seen before in him as a guy. You know, he kind of accessed a darkness and I guess a sort of a rawness of spirit that, you know, was really important and really fundamental to Ned's character.
Despite the fact that Ned Kelly would not find a release outside of Australia, Heath was rapidly becoming big news. Thanks in part to his new relationship with Ned Kelly co-star and fellow Australian Naomi Watts, herself a rising star due to her Oscar-nominated performance in 21 Grams. Determined to take only the roles that interested him, Heath proved that fame and fortune were low priorities, when in 2005 he turned down the title role in Oliver Stone's big-budget epic Alexander. Instead, he took a role in Catherine Hardwicke's independent feature Lords of Dogtown. However, his next film would have a considerably larger budget and profile. But the only reason Heath signed on was his admiration of the film's director. The film was The Brothers Grimm, and the director was the irrepressible Terry Gilliam.
And I was a big fan of Monty Python, and I so desperately wanted to be in, The Holy Grail and Life of Brian. I loved it, and so I so desperately wanted to bring like a Python-esque kind of quality to Brothers Grimm too, So you can't help it because his sense of humor and just his nature is just incredibly infectious.
The Brothers Grimm premiered at the Venice Film Festival in 2005. It was a remarkable, if stressful, festival for Heath. Dealing with the demands of promoting one premiere movie at an international film festival would be enough. But at the 2005 Venice Festival, Heath was starring in not one movie, but 3.
I don't know where I am right now. I'm kind of floating. I'm having like out-of-body experiences when I'm talking to people, and I feel like every sentence I say, it was the same as the very last sentence I just said, and every word that escapes my mouth is the same word that just followed it and is about to, it's just very confusing, and it's very exhausting, as I said. But I'm trying as hard as I can to represent all 3 films with stamina and enthusiasm.
As well as The Brothers Grimm, he had another big-budget commercial movie making its debut at Venice. Also a period piece, this film was a good old-fashioned romp in which Heath would play the world's greatest seducer of women, Casanova. Directed by Lasse Hallström, Casanova saw Heath's matinee idol looks put to devastating effect as he swashbuckled his way around 18th century Venice, leaving a trail of broken hearts in his wake. In real life, however, Heath was by now in a long-term relationship with a woman who would become the mother of his child, Michelle Williams. Heath fell in love with Michelle when they worked together on the 3rd film he was representing at Venice. Brokeback Mountain would change both their lives and create a much wider impact than its producers ever thought possible.
My life changed certainly from meeting Michelle. And I have a family, a beautiful family, and two beautiful girls, thanks to Brokeback Mountain. So it's extraordinary the level in which my life has changed. Thanks to that film.
Directed by Ang Lee and based on a short story by Annie Proulx, Brokeback Mountain was an unconventional love story about 2 cowboys who meet while wrangling sheep in Wyoming and form a bond that transcends time and transforms their lives. Co-starring Jake Gyllenhaal as love interest Jack Twist, Brokeback Mountain gathered widespread media attention due to the unflinching portrayal of its subject matter.
I think just love is universal, isn't it? And it can be epic. I just think it's being told through the vessels of two men. So that's why I guess it's surprising people.
It soon became apparent that Brokeback Mountain was much more than a gay cowboy movie. Heath's portrayal of Ennis Del Mar was a finely tuned study of contradictions and repressed emotion. It was a performance that would draw accolades beyond his expectations and make him a worldwide superstar. Honours and awards for Heath's performance in Brokeback came in thick and fast. In early 2006, the Santa Barbara Film Festival singled him out for a special award for Breakthrough Performance of the Year.
When I saw Brokeback back in September, actually, at Telluride Film Festival, I thought his performance was breathtaking. I loved the film then, and I love his performance. I thought it was one of the best performances of the year. And we had to have him, so we invited him then.
True to form, Heath downplayed the attention. As he told Variety reporter Pete Hammond after receiving the award, his attitude to awards in general was to keep them at a distance and not give them undue emphasis.
Through the whole award season,
there's so much going on, and there are so many different awards that it all becomes one thing. It all just blurs into the same thing, and it's surreal, and it's like a real false sense of both success and failure at the same time.
Like many actors, Heath was of the opinion that the craft of acting is so unique that to put one performance into competition with another is simply not the point. But he found that despite his personal views, awards were just another part of the job at hand.
You're being thrusted into competitions, and a race, and you're looking left and right, and all your competitors are actually competing in different sports, and you're all starting at different places, and you're not ending at the same line, but you're all in the same race. You don't want to be in a race, but you are.
Both Heath and Michelle received Oscar nominations for their roles in Brokeback Mountain. Heath for Best Actor and Michelle for Best Supporting Actress.
The best part and the easiest part of this whole season is the fact that we've had each other's hands, and it's been easier because we've been making it about each other, and
instead of focusing on the attention.
It's much more enjoyable when it's about Michelle for me.
The film gathered a total of 8 nominations at the 2006 Academy Awards. It won 3, for Best Score, Best Writing and Best Achievement in Directing for Ang Lee. Heath lost out to Philip Seymour Hoffman in Capote, but that didn't stop the scripts and offers from flooding in. As soon as Brokeback Mountain was in the can, Heath made another film, Candy, a much smaller project but with no less challenging subject matter. The debut feature for Australian theatre director Neil Armfield, Candy told the tough and at times shocking story of Dan and his girlfriend Candy, played by fellow Australian Abby Cornish, whose lives descend into living hell because of their dependency on heroin. As usual, Heath went outside his comfort zone for some gritty research on the subject.
We met up with a few people. Like, there was a gentleman that I spent time with has been and still is a junkie. He's been a junkie for like 25 years. And he taught us how to use all the paraphernalia, and not on ourselves. He actually had a prosthetic arm originally they were designed for medical use, training nurses and stuff like that. But they had one at this clinic where they teach kids how to actually inject drugs safely. Go figure.
Heath's next film would be considerably lighter than the dark world explored in Candy. But like all of his later films, it placed artistic integrity right at the forefront. Directed by Todd Haynes, I'm Not There used 7 actors to portray different aspects of the personality of cult singer-songwriter Bob Dylan. Immediately after I'm Not There finished shooting, Heath had to turn his attention to a much more physically and psychologically demanding role, that of the Joker in the 2007 Batman adventure, The Dark Knight. To prepare for the role, it was widely reported that Heath locked himself in a hotel room for a month and experimented with different voices and physical characterizations. Whatever he did, it worked, and Heath had a ball along the way.
It's just been stupid amounts of fun, and he's dark, very nasty. He's a psychopath, sociopath, mass murdering clown, and it's really coming together. And the movie looks amazing. It's a lot darker than the first one, and I think a lot bigger too.
He also found inspiration among his fellow cast members. As the Joker, Heath had the opportunity to work with screen legends like Gary Oldman and Michael Caine.
The actors are just, are phenomenal. Like working with Gary Oldman, and which is a dream for me, and Michael Caine and Christian Bale, who even in a bat suit manages to, give these amazing performances, and of course Maggie Gyllenhaal and Aaron Eckhart and Morgan Freeman, and it's just stupid. It's an incredible cast, and I think you'll. I'm pleasantly surprised, so I'd say you probably will be too.
Tragically, Heath would not live to witness the widespread acclaim heaped upon his maniacal portrayal of Batman's nemesis. On Tuesday, the 22nd of January 2008, he was discovered unconscious on the floor of his Manhattan apartment. Paramedics were unable to revive him.
We, Heath's family, confirm the very tragic, untimely and accidental passing of our dearly loved son, brother and doting father of Matilda. He was found peacefully asleep in his New York apartment by his housekeeper at 3:30 US time, 3:30 p.m. US time. We would like to thank our friends and everyone around the world for their well wishes and kind thoughts at this time.
Retrospective speculation about Heath's dependence on prescription medication flooded the gossip pages, but nothing could take the edge off the outpouring of grief that accompanied the passing of so young and talented a star.
It's an unspeakably sad thing, and I think everybody's hearts and thoughts go out to his loved ones.
Well, my heart goes out to his family and this kid. He's got a little kid. I don't know. You know, people have demons. Sometimes it's hard to see them.
The closing party for Good Day LA, a week-long celebration of Australians making their mark in the US, was being held only a few short days after the news of Heath's death was made public. The sad news cast a shadow over what would have otherwise been a happy occasion, with all present taking a moment to honour the late actor.
I think it's a tragedy, no matter what country you come from, when somebody so young, you know, loses their life like in such circumstances. You know, I really feel for his family and especially his daughter. You know, I've got a daughter myself, and someone to go through that and never really know their father's a sad, really saddening thing. So it's a massive loss.
Heath was laid to rest at a small funeral service in his hometown of Perth on February the 9th, 2008. Perhaps the most fitting tribute came from his friends, who said their final farewells with a swim at Heath's favourite beach, remembering him as the sun went down on a brilliant career cut short. But for his legions of fans, he would live on in the characters he'd immortalised on screen, the most acclaimed of which was still to come, in the form of the chillingly psychotic Joker in Christopher Nolan's Batman sequel, The Dark Knight. Released 5 months after Heath's death, it set the record for the highest-grossing opening weekend of all time in the US, earning approximately $158 million. It became the fastest film in the history of American cinema to reach the $400 million mark on its 18th day of release. The Dark Knight has gone on to become one of the highest-grossing films of all time, earning close to $1 billion at the box office. Christian Bale, who played Batman, was full of praise for Heath's sinister performance.
He immersed himself completely into it. It was a real joy working opposite him and see it. You know, once he was in his makeup, he was the Joker the whole way through. Once he took it off, he was Heath, you know, and he was great company. But when he was in it, he stayed in it.
Director Christopher Nolan revealed that seeing him bring the Joker to life on the big screen brought home the huge differences between the real-life Heath and his demonic alter ego. But it wasn't only Heath's colleagues who came out in vocal support of his potential nomination for a posthumous Oscar. Sandy Cohen, entertainment reporter for Associated Press, also weighed in on the campaign.
He gives an amazing performance. It's the performance of his career, and sadly it's his last. And I think that awards voters may consider him come time. I mean, he steals the show. He steals the show from Batman.
He ended up winning the award for Best Supporting Actor. But in fact, it wasn't his last visit to the big screen. His death had come in the middle of filming Terry Gilliam's fantasy film, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, in which Heath played a mysterious member of a travelling theatre troupe. After his death, the role was recast to have Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell and Jude Law play physically transformed versions of Tony. The film was finally released in late 2009. Over the course of his short life, Heath's brooding good looks, gentle smile and sensitive acting style attracted plenty of attention from the opposite sex. While filming A Knight's Tale in Prague, he would meet a real-life love interest who was also in the Czech Republic making a movie. He and the much older Heather Graham would end up dating for several months during 2000 and 2001. After they split, Heath remained single until September 2002, when he met fellow Australian Naomi Watts on the set of the movie Ned Kelly. With both their stars on the ascendant, Heath and Naomi had an on-again, off-again relationship between 2002 and 2004. Their relationship saw them become targets for the Australian paparazzi, who relished having a homegrown celebrity couple on their doorstep. But as Naomi insisted in this interview, there was nothing really that glamorous about their life together.
We slob around, we cook, we entertain our friends, we have dogs, we clean up their poop. It's just a really ordinary life that anyone would be able to relate to.
Perhaps a little too ordinary for Heath, who at 10 years her junior was well known for his love of the nightlife, prompting Naomi to call a wrap on their relationship in 2004. In spite of his penchant for partying, he felt ready to settle down when he met the great love of his life, Michelle Williams. Heath and Michelle met playing husband and wife in 2005's Brokeback Mountain. In October that year, Michelle gave birth to their daughter Matilda Rose. While Heath and Michelle were never officially married, they were often spotted wearing wedding bands, which fueled speculation they may have married in secret. But in September 2007, it was confirmed that the couple had ended their relationship. According to reports, the split was amicable, although rumours later surfaced about a rift due to Heath's problems with drug abuse. After they went their separate ways, Heath moved into a $23,000 a month loft in Manhattan, the apartment where he would be found dead only a few months later. Away from his family, Heath was linked with a string of beautiful women, such as models Helena Christensen and Gemma Ward. He was also rumoured to be involved with former child star Mary-Kate Olsen. And shortly after Heath's death, Mary-Kate issued a statement that read, "Heath was a friend. His death is a tragic loss." Over the years to come, that tragic loss will perhaps be felt most keenly by the woman in his life who never got to know him, but whom Heath clearly loved most of all, his daughter Matilda Rose.
I think you also look at death differently. Like, it's like a catch-22. Like, I feel good about dying now because I feel like I'm alive in her, you know, but at the same hand, you don't want to die because you want to be around for the rest of her life. It's kind of like an interesting kind of little setup.